In this session of our compliance training, we will be talking about OSHA, which stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Much of what is written in our policy seems like common sense. A lot of the rules that seem silly are there for a reason, because someone got hurt or died and now we have a rule we have to follow. The reason why there's a do not eat warning on a bag of potpourri is because someone at some point did. It's all about protecting you from a safety and welfare perspective. You can find the manual on the company share drive in the OSHA folder. You are required to be familiar with and understand the policies. If there is something you need more help with or if you have questions, chat with your manager or contact your safety officer. We'll kick OSHA off by talking about emergency, specifically fire plans. Electrical fires are the leading cause of workplace fires. If you have frayed cords or have to put multiple extension cords together, you need an outlet installed. Let us know and we'll get it taken care of. We don't mind if you have a portable space heater, but it must have tip-over protection, so it shuts off automatically if it gets tipped over. If you have one, you must turn it off when you're away from it. If you leave to go to the bathroom, the copier, or home for the night, be sure you have turned it off. Also, use your common sense. Don't put a space heater right next to a trash can or a box of paper. Give it some space. Some other things you can do. Make sure forgotten coffee pots are turned off. Don't put extension cords under carpet or area rugs. We didn't hire you all to be firefighters, and we don't expect you to be one. But if you come across a small fire and you're comfortable using an extinguisher, by all means go ahead. All locations have working fire extinguishers. If you must evacuate due to a fire, get yourself and your patients out of the building safely. What do you do if you have to evacuate a building? First, pull the fire alarm and begin to evacuate. This includes employees and patients. Use your cell phone to call 911. Leave by the closest exit. Don't use an elevator. And when a fire alarm is pulled, the elevator could stop and you would be stuck. Once you're outside and safe, go to your designated assembly point and check in with your supervisor. If you work in MRI, there's an extra step for you. You have to shut and lock the doors of the rooms where the machines are located. We certainly don't want any firefighters with big giant tanks going into a room with just as giant a magnet. Otherwise, no one should worry about turning off equipment or anything else. Just get out of the building and take a patient with you. Do not go back into the building until after you've gone to your meeting location and your manager gives you the all clear to return to work. Workplace violence is something we have zero tolerance for. You spend the majority of your day at work, and we want you to be comfortable and safe at all times. Keep in mind that you will be interacting with patients that are on medicine or in pain, which can cause them to have unusual behavior. Family members of patients can also be under a great deal of stress that can impact their behavior. Again, we do not tolerate any violence, whether physical, environmental, or verbal, whether from a patient, a fellow coworker, or a manager. If you are subject to or witness an incident, immediately contact your manager or a member of Human Resources. Natural disasters also pose a risk to our safety. We'll spend a few minutes talking about tornadoes and how to keep yourself and our patients safe. If you hear of a severe weather watch, notify your supervisor. One person should be on task with watching and tracking the storm. The front desk will need to print out a copy of the most recent patient schedule so we know who is with us in the building at that time. It's important to know the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning. Watches only mean they are possible. The conditions could be right for a tornado to form, whereas warnings mean they are imminent. If a warning is issued, everyone should seek safe shelter immediately, employees and patients. When we were in school, we learned what to do in the situation of a tornado, but it bears repeating. Generally, the X-ray rooms are designated as safe spaces because they have reinforced walls. Seek shelter in a lower level of your building. Go to an inner hallway, a smaller room. Keep away from windows. Don't use elevators. Cover your head and eyes with a blanket or a jacket to protect yourself from flying debris. Stay inside until you are sure that the tornado and any offspring it may create have passed. Next on our list of OSHA procedures to discuss is for blood-borne exposure control. Being a medical office, you could be exposed to them as well as other potentially infectious materials. The biggest pathogens of our concern are hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. Human Resources will offer you the Hep B vaccine at no cost to you at any time and will help you with the form and letting you know how to get it scheduled. We have universal precautions in place. If it's something that came from a body or looks like it did, please use gloves. All specimens should be placed in the appropriate containers. If you have to clean up broken glass, don't risk cutting yourself. Put gloves on and use a dustpan or something else to remove the glass. To dispose of anything that could create exposure, we have red waste bags in all areas like clinics and surgery centers. There are also special containers for sharps or needles, and they need to be placed in these containers for disposal. Again, don't risk exposing yourself to cuts or to fluids. We are responsible for providing personal protective equipment for you. So let us know if there is something you would like to have, whether it's gloves, gowns, face shields, anything. There's no need for you to be buying it for yourself. The most common request is for the right size of gloves. If you need a smaller size, let someone know so they can be ordered for you. Gloves must be worn when it's reasonably expected that you will come in contact with bodily fluids or contaminated surfaces. If you do put on gloves or gown up, please take it off before you leave your work area and make sure that you place it in the designated containers for disposal. Now let's move into hand hygiene, starting with washing your hands. While hand washing has become second nature to us, please be extra diligent with your hand washing whenever your hands are visibly soiled, after caring for a person, after a known or suspected exposure to spores occurs before you eat, after you use the restroom. Make sure that you're using soap and water and are scrubbing for 20 seconds. Sing happy birthday or the ABCs or staying alive to yourself. The average hand washing time is only 6 seconds, but you need to be sure that you're washing your hands for a full 20 seconds. And don't forget your fingertips. That's what most people miss. Rinse and dry your hands before turning off the faucet using a paper towel. Hand sanitizer is another way to have proper hand hygiene. Use hand sanitizer before touching a patient or if you're going from a soiled site to a clean one. Also, be sure to use hand sanitizer before and after putting on gloves. Get enough sanitizer to cover your entire hand. Rub your hands together, spreading it all over, and keep rubbing until your hands are dry. We have hand sanitizer everywhere, so it should be easy for you to find. Your lunch and snacks cannot be put in the same refrigerator as medications. You'll see a label on the front, and that's how you'll know if it's off limits for your tasty treats. We don't have many of them, and they shouldn't be in a break room, but get in the habit of paying attention to the labels. Also, keep food and drink at least 3 feet away from places where procedures or injections take place. Any place where there is blood or other potentially infectious material, you will see that biohazard sign that's showing on the screen. Sometimes they're red, sometimes they're orange. They are in place as a warning to you, so please pay attention to them. In the unfortunate event that you do get stuck by a needle, please go to your manager immediately for help. There are special procedures that need to be followed. Now let's talk about OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard. The standard was created to protect you. You'll learn specifics of your particular location when you get there. The two big items for you to know are safety data sheets and secondary container labeling. Safety data sheets tell you all you need to know about a hazardous chemical. They are identical and list the information in the same order, making it easy to find what you need. If you're exposed to a chemical on your skin or something splashes in your eye, you'll know what to do to seek medical attention. SDS sheets are located on the company shared drive in the OSHA Information Safety Data Sheets folder. That way it's easy for you to access them at any time. These are the 16 sections that appear on every safety data sheet. And again, every sheet will appear in this exact same order. So if you're splashed with a chemical, you know that you can go to section 4 to find first aid measures for you to take. When we get something from a manufacturer, it will already have a label telling us what it is. It will have a pictogram to alert us if it has any hazards. There will be a signal word on there such as danger. That information is all very important for us to know. There are 9 pictograms that we could see on a package warning us of any hazards. The most common one you will see is probably the exclamation mark. If you ever take a chemical out of its original container and move it into another container, it needs to be labeled with correct hazard communication. One of the most common times we do this is if you take a disinfectant agent and put it into a smaller spray bottle. If you're putting something into a plain plastic bottle, that bottle also needs to be labeled. On the left of the screen, you can see what our secondary labels look like. You can find them by going to the company shared drive and following the path of OSHA information to hazard communication information to hazard chemical labels. They are all housed there and are easy for you to print off. In the top box, you will write the specific name of the product. Then if there's a pictogram on the original bottle, you'll mark the same on this label. Also be sure to include any expiration dates. Once you have the secondary label created, attach it to the container. Now we're going to talk about housekeeping and safety for our physical locations. When it comes to housekeeping and safety, each of us carries a responsibility to report if something needs fixed or fixing it yourself if it's something you're able to easily do. If there's anything that needs to be removed or repaired, let your manager know right away. On the screen, you'll see some examples of what we include in housekeeping efforts. Some things we've seen before in our clinics that we want to make sure we mention. Stacking boxes. Don't stack them so high that they could topple over on someone. Specifically with the sharps boxes, don't stack them more than 2 high. Don't block any exits or fire prevention objects. Eliminate trip hazards by never stringing cords or hoses across the floor. If you spill something, clean it up. If it's too big to handle on your own, reach out to your manager and cordon off the area. If you see lights that are out in your building or in the parking lot, let your manager know. If your electric is blowing repeatedly, let your manager know. Obviously, the outlet or the circuit is carrying too much of a load. Ergonomics are part of your personal physical safety. If you sit at a computer for the majority of your day, you need to take a micro break every 45 to 60 minutes. Start another task, turn the other way, stand up, sit down. Make sure you're stretching your legs. What you see on the screen shows you how you should be properly sitting. If you keep everything at a 90-degree angle, that's the most optimal. But if your feet don't touch the floor, your manager can help by getting you a footrest for you to use. The same is true for other equipment that will help you with managing ergonomics. Knowing the proper lifting techniques is critical to protecting your back. If you must lift something, ask yourself the questions on the screen. How heavy is it? What route do I need to follow? Plan where you're going so you know if you have to open any doors to get there. Use a cart or a desk chair if you're going a longer distance. Be sure to have your feet shoulder width apart and one foot ahead of the other to keep your balance. Use your legs, not your back, when you're bending and lifting. Do not twist as you're lifting. Set the item down in the same way that you lifted it by using your legs instead of bending at the waist. On the screen, you can see some other lifting do's and don'ts to help you with knowing the proper way to lift things. If you are ever injured while on the job, we want you to please make sure your manager knows right away. Know where the eye wash station is for your location so you can go there quickly to flush your eyes. Instructions for the majority of our eye wash stations are listed on the screen. If you ever have a question about how to operate yours, please check with your manager. We have very basic first aid kits at each location, Band-Aids, non-prescription creams, and the likes. There should be a first aid sticker on the front of the cabinet where it's located to make it easier for you to find. Of course, we have a manual with all of our OSHA information in it. It is on the shared drive, right along with all of the other manuals that you use on a regular basis. You can see there is a section for every topic that we've talked about today. If you ever have a specific question, please reach out to the compliance and the safety team so they can assist you. We'd like to thank you for your attention today and for taking the time to listen to this very important material. Please share any questions you have with your manager or your privacy officer. And everyone go out there and have a wonderful rest of your day.